Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Recording in progress.
So I'm going to ask that everyone just sit tight for a little bit longer. We have new technology in here that has worked perfectly over the last 3 days. And as of about an hour ago, we only have one camera that is working. So we're going to try to, the tech team is going to try to fix that. So sit tight for about 5 more minutes and then we'll get started. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started utilizing the technology that is working today. So welcome. Today is Monday, April 6th. This is a regular meeting of the San Rafael City Council. Request the city clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bushy is absent. Councilmember Hill is absent. Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Present.
Councilmember Yeden Scolati.
Present.
Mayor Kate.
Present. Thank you. We met in closed session prior, and I'll invite the city attorney to report out.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. No reportable action was taken in closed session.
Thank you. Is your mic on? It's just kind of hard to hear. Okay.
No reportable action was taken in closed session.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome, whether you're here in person or joining us online. We appreciate your engagement in San Rafael. I always like to start by thanking our city staff. Every day, these professionals enable our city to run so smoothly. Everything from cleaning storm drains to preparing for council meetings. We're grateful for their responsiveness and dedication. So it's spring, and a quick reminder, if you're noticing potholes, they seem to spring up just like weeds spring up during the spring. Go ahead and report any of those issues through C-Click Fix. You can access it right on the city website. It's the most direct way to let city staff know about issues, and it's the same portal that the five of us use, so C-Click Fix. In addition, we continue to work to get folks even more engaged on all the different topics. So if you don't already subscribe to the Snapshot, I would suggest that you do that as well. That's our city manager e-newsletter. It comes out twice a month. It talks about what will be at the council meeting, what decisions have been made, other issues that are going on in the city. So it's a great place to start to get information. And from there, you can also go to the website if you have a particular issue or initiative that you're interested in. The website is very, very robust and has lots of information. So we always want to just continue to work on getting the facts out there. Social media is one venue, but the best venue is the website or engaging in meetings like this one. So thank you for being here. And before we get started, I'd like to include a land acknowledgement as part of our meeting. And this statement complements the ongoing collaboration and work we do with the tribe. This is the statement. We thank the original caretakers of this land. San Rafael is traditionally home to the Coast Miwok people, many of whom today are tribal citizens of the Federated Indians of Great Rancheria. And we honor their continuing involvement in stewardship practices that benefit us all. Thank you for being here. We have a great agenda, and I'll turn it over to the city clerk to share how the public can participate this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. Tonight's meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube. For members of the public wishing to provide public comment, displayed on the podium and the projector is a timer to help you stay within your 2-minute time frame. You're invited, though not required, to introduce yourself and say what part of Centerville you live in or if you're from outside of Centerville. Viewers may request a reasonable accommodation to provide public comments virtually. For more information about that, or if you're experiencing any technical difficulties, you can email me at city.clerk@cityofcenterville.org.
Thank you. We have open time for public expression, both at the beginning of the meeting for 10 minutes, and then any folks that don't get a chance to talk, we'll have additional open time for public expression at the end of the meeting. This is for anything that's not on tonight's agenda, so if you'd like to address the council, now is your opportunity to do so. And you're welcome, but not required, to say your name and what part of San Rafael you live in.
Still. Hello, my name is Wayne Rayburn. I live in San Rafael Meadows. Hello, Mayor, members, staff.
Oh, I'm sorry, can you hold on one second? It doesn't sound like it's on. So let's or maybe,
Testing.
okay. Why don't you start over and just,
Not close enough.
yeah, why don't you get a little closer, just so the recording can pick it up. Thank you, sir. Wait, yep. It's just all the technology this evening. Okay, there we go.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. Okay, hello, Mayor, council members, staff. My name is Wayne Rayburn, live at San Rafael Meadows. The city of Milpitas is the process of giving residents free wireless doorbell cameras to deter crime, help police gather video evidence, according to a report by the Milpitas Beach. The Milpitas City Council allocated $60,000 for the program to distribute one per household by the Milpitas Police Department on the first-come, first-served basis. The City Council unanimously approved the program on March the 17th, 2026. Officials selected a plan giving residents free cameras with no required subscription and at least 90 days of storage data. I'll quote the city member, Evelyn Chu. Public safety is our top priority, and this door camera initiative is about strengthening crime prevented right where it matters most, at home. By equipping residents with tools and partners closely with the Milpitas Police Department, we're building a stronger community connection between our community and law enforcement and help deter crime and protect our neighborhoods, end of quote. And now, if you, our city council members, feel the same safe about our safety as Milpitas does about theirs, you should approve a similar program. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other comments? Not seen right now. As I said, there is additional open time for public expression at the end of the meeting. We'll move into the city manager and council member reports. I will turn to City Manager Navazio.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. A few items to share this evening. First is work has started on our Lincoln Avenue Crosswalk Improvement Project. Construction will be ongoing through this month and into May. There's temporary parking and traffic set up, and some traffic disruptions may be encountered during the constructions. The areas that are being worked on is Lincoln Avenue and Wilson Court, and Lincoln Avenue and Brookdale Avenue. Improvements include flashing pedestrian and crossing lights at both intersections, upgraded curb ramps, et cetera. So there'll be a little disruption during that, but work is underway. Just a couple of events that are coming up. Projecting forward to next week, we do have a finance subcommittee meeting on Tuesday, April 14th at 10 a.m. Upstairs in our third floor conference room, and the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee is meeting Wednesday, the 15th at 6 p.m. Two other events, Red Cross Blood Drive on Wednesday, April 15th from 9 to 2 p.m. at the B Street Community Center. And then finally, the city will be participating and cooperating in a downtown cleanup day with downtown businesses and neighbors. And we're also inviting volunteers to join the festivities. This will be on April 22nd from 10 to noon. Gathering will be at City Plaza at 1004th Street. And all volunteers will be getting some free gelato for your help in pitching in. Last thing I'll note is, folks may have noticed, but over the next roughly 2 weeks, there's a window of weather permitting where we will be doing prescribed burns. San Rafael Hill, I believe today, there was some burning up there, also planned for tomorrow. Not necessarily every day, but over the next 13 days. So you can sign up for Alert Marin's prescribed burning notifications to be notified for the schedule of those events. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn to my colleagues. Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Had the honor of reading at Bahia Vista, which was great for first and second graders, and then I got totally upstanded by the fire department, who also came to read, and kids had no interest at that point, so which was great. They did a really fantastic job, and so that was, every year it's a great opportunity. Attended the MWPA, Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority board meeting and exec meeting. It is a really important time right now because we're looking at the work plan and the budget for next year. So those recordings are available online on Marin Wildfire's site. And you can look at those meetings as well as the Operations Committee meeting. I encourage everyone to do that, as that is a huge amount of funding that goes into supporting the work that we need to do to prepare for wildfire. I attended the Cal Cities policy meeting on community services, where we were working on the policy for Cal Cities around older adults. And actually, we changed the name from seniors to older adults, and I believe we're going to get the term ageism worked into the statement. So that has to be approved still by the board, but that will be coming. I spoke at the San Rafael Federation of Neighborhoods, and Mayor Kate and I met with the exec team from Kaiser to hear about some of their new updates that are coming up. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Irene Scolati.
Thank you, Mayor. I also was able to read to kids from third graders. I read at San Pedro School, 3 classes, and it was amazing. I was able to read in Spanish because everybody spoke Spanish, so it was super fun. And then we had some math because there were a lot of personal questions, including how old I was, or like what was the year that I was born. So we started doing some math, if we're in 2026. So anyway, really good at math too. So it was amazing. I had a great time. I also attended the Cal Cities Environmental Quality Policy Committee a couple of weeks ago. We received an overview of the California Global Biodiversity Alliance with the goal to advance biodiversity and climate resilience statewide, which might really influence our planning, our local planning. The committee also took action on several bills, especially AB 1642 on wildfire contamination standards and other measures addressing environmental regulation and public safety. We are really pushing for, there are like several bills around emergency response and we are pushing not only to do it for wildfire, but also for other catastrophes like earthquakes or flooding. I will continue looking at these, tracking these proposals to make sure that our city is represented. Last week, I attended the San Rafael Chamber of Commerce East San Rafael Working Group meeting. We have our very own Kate Hageman presenting our two-year study on sea level rise, which is so important for our neighbors and our businesses. And I had the pleasure to actually, our acting city manager, Paul, was with us, so it was great to introduce him to our businesses as well. And of course, Corey Bitov was in attendance as well. This morning, I attended the Marine Transit monthly meeting. The highlight is a presentation from Voces del Canal, which is a group of leaders, part of Canal Alliance. They have done like an 8-week training on what it is, the experience of the different users of the transit. So they have a study around from the new bus center that is going to be built in there to, they had a couple of days where they drove the buses, and we are introducing the new mascot program, combination Marine Transit with other agencies as well, Transportation Authority of Marine, SMART, Golden Gate Transit. So it was great for them to have that experience, and we will continue from Marine Transit working with them to see how we can continue improving our services. So that was very interesting. And then after that one, I had an MC Clean Energy Executive Committee meeting. So busy Monday. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I have a couple items to report out on the San Rafael Sanitation District met last week. Councilmember Bushy was also there. We discussed Bayside Acres, which is removing pipes that are too close to the bay and bringing them back into a place that works for BCDC. So phase 3 on that. In addition, we are doing the next step of relocating district employees to the CMSA, the Central Marin Sanitation Agency site. So we approved a relocation contract for that. In addition, the Economic Development and Housing Subcommittee met. Councilmember Hill was a part of that conversation. We had a fantastic discussion around the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. There'll be further discussions both here on the dais as well as when we have our next housing study session, as that is a key issue. On these meetings, by the way, the subcommittees are all recorded and you can watch them online later. In addition, we talked about our special event sponsorship policy, and we also had an update on the Southeast San Rafael specific plan, which is being undertaken with $790,000 from Marin Metropolitan Transit Commission, MTC. Right now, the listening sessions are starting as to what that plan would eventually be like, so stay tuned for more information on that. And finally, we had an excellent presentation by the Marin Small Business Development Center, otherwise known as SBDC. If you are a small business owner, this is a fantastic resource for both technical advice as well as anything that your business might encounter, so do check them out online. Last week, the TAM board met, Transportation Authority of Marin, and our entire agenda will be coming here, not the entire agenda, but piece of it will be coming here in that we discussed the Measure AA expenditure plan. It was approved by the TAM board, and as part of changing the allocation, it has to be approved by over 50% of all the cities and towns. So we will be hearing that at either our next meeting or the first meeting in May. So it is coming up. We had a great discussion at that TAM board, and I'm confident that all the cities and towns will agree, hopefully, with the reallocation of adding a little bit more money to support crossing guards. Councilmember Micah already mentioned about mascots. That was talked about at SMART, which is the Sonoma Marin Area Rapid Transit. Mascots is a coordination of all the transit systems, Marin Transit, Golden Gate Transit, and SMART. So Marin IJ actually had an excellent article about it this morning. Service is going to increase at SMART by 16%. There'll be more morning transit trips, midday and after work, and they're working to connect even tighter with local transit. So it's a regional effort to have transit serve users as best as possible. Two more things to mention. I attended, as well as Councilmember Bushy and Councilmember Hill, the retirement last week of Captain McDellery, who had served the city of San Rafael for 33 years, and it was fantastic. It was a great turnout and honoring a true public service professional who'll be missed, and we wish him all the best in next chapter. And then finally, I think all the neighborhood association meetings are being scheduled because I was able to speak at Fair Hills, a Rotary meeting, Jewish Family Services, and I have a couple more coming up. So if you're part of a neighborhood association, would like any of us to come and speak to you, do reach out because that's a great way to get additional information. So thank you, as always, for all the work that you're doing. I will now open it up to the public. If there's any comments that you would like to make on the city manager and council member reports, now is your opportunity. Okay, not seeing any. I'll go to the consent calendar. I'm sorry, is the sound seems weird to me. I don't know if it seems weird to you guys. It seems fine. It's really echoey for us. It's not echoey for you all out there?
There is a slight echo. You're not crazy. We're
Okay.
going to
I'm
fix that.
just gonna ignore that, but I want you to all know that we recognize there's an echo in here. Okay. It's okay, I'm gonna ignore that. Okay. We'll move to the consent calendar. Are there any items that the council would like to hold from the consent agenda? No. Okay, not seeing any. I will open up public comment. Okay, now I can't hear it. Public comment on the consent agenda. This is items 2A through 2H. If you'd like to comment, now is your opportunity. And you're invited but not required to say your name. Oh, do you want to go? Well, either one. Either one. Let's see if that one's on. Yeah. Is this okay? I have a big mouth, too. I don't think that one's on, so give it.
Okay. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. Hi, council members and Mayor Kate. Nice to be here again. We were here a couple of weeks ago, and I'm here to comment in particular on the IPM work that we've been talking about again. I'm part of a group that we named back in the early 2000s, Safe and Healthy San Rafael. And we wanted to help educate the community, and we found it incredibly gratifying working with the city at that time to help create the original policy for IPM. And I'm proud to have been a part of that and happy to be back now and finding that San Rafael has that same spirit of collaboration, which is wonderful. So a group of us who are San Rafael Revival, Safe and Healthy San Rafael Revival, met with April Miller and Aaron Tubbs. And out of their incredibly busy schedule, they carved out some time to meet with us and hear our input on the IPM policy that was being proposed. And we're very grateful for that. In particular, I can say my interest, I live, by the way, in San Rafael, just up on Laurel Place. And I'm sure you all know where that is. So I walk a lot up the hill on Robert Dollar and down through Boyd Park. And there are parts of open space, and I am thrilled to say that I think we're going to continue with what was my goal before, which was to feel safer on city property because of the consideration in spraying and applying pesticides that I do in my own neighborhood. And what I would love to see, my vision, would be for San Rafael to be a beacon for the county and also, in a way, educate and make others curious who could then make us feel safe walking city streets too, because residences don't spray as much and that sort of thing. Thank you all, and thank you for doing all that you do, and thank you, April and Aaron, for for all they're doing.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Rika Gopinath. I live here in San Rafael. I'm actually very happy to be here, and also want to thank Council Member Rachel Kurtz for pulling from the consent calendar, and really thank you very much to staff, April Miller and Aaron Tubbs. We had a super productive meeting, and just want to call out two things. We really appreciate the chance to share both some context and history about the policy, but also we're lucky because we have myself, like I live here, this is my home, and I get to work on this stuff in my day job nationally. And so we're really fortunate that staff was willing to sit down with us, and we were all about the same thing, making sure that staff has the resources to do the work they need to do safely for the public good. And I want to highlight just two things. First, to especially thank staff for the changes and feedback they heard and changes they made that are before you tonight, but especially to call out the addition of sharing information with the public through an annual meeting. And I think that is fantastic. It's a best practice that we recommend in my day job with public transparency, accountability, and it offers staff an opportunity, which Aaron actually articulated the importance of being able to engage with the community. The last thing I want to call out is that I really hope we support this revision, but I really hope it marks the beginning and not the end of the evolution of this policy. So I hope that it can come into the next work plan, because we have lots of resources and more ideas about how to bring best practices into this policy, especially hearing, and knowing the city of San Rafael cares about biodiversity and sustainability. IPM policies and practices can be the way to take action for the city's sustainability by not only removing pesticides, but actually leaning into nature-based solutions. And so I'm excited to continue that work and just come here with deep gratitude for staff and council.
Thank you, Rika.
Good evening, Debbie Rafael. I live in Terra Linda. I've run IPM programs across the state and was also working with Kramer on the formation of this policy. So I feel very connected to it and very proud of this city for its leadership on reducing the use of pesticides. I also want to call, there's one change that was put into the policy based on our conversation, and I want to reiterate what Rika said about the importance to me as a resident, and that is the potential to have an annual update for the public, because right now the only way to find out what is used on city property is to send Aaron an email, and then he makes PDFs of all the different applications. It's incredibly time consuming for him. What other cities do is they post on a website that is very labor intensive for staff. So we came up with what we thought was a clever solution to honor transparency by having an annual public meeting. Perhaps Corey Bidoff would allow us to take part of his agenda. It is consistent with our sustainability mission, where the public is invited to have a conversation about pesticide use. Staff are able to explain where they've had to use it, where they haven't, where resources have gotten in the way, and where they need the public help. So to me, that is a very exciting addition that is before you. I support you approving the resolution, and I want to reiterate my gratitude for staff's ability to work with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the consent agenda? Okay, not seeing any. I will bring it back to the council for a motion on this item.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Yes.
Sorry. Councilmember Eden Scalati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Our first agenda item this evening is the Economic Development Strategic Plan update. And I see Stacy Lauman and Director Hinkle coming down. Welcome.
Madam Mayor and Council, as staff prepares, Mayor Kate alluded to, this presentation was provided at the Economic Development Housing Subcommittee a couple weeks ago, and I appreciate the feedback and the ability to present the subcommittee, and we're here tonight to share some exciting information and updates with the full council and the public in this forum.
So good evening, Mayor Kate and council members. Micah Hinkle, Community Economic Development Director. I'm joined here with Stacy Lauman, and this is your economic development team. So we're happy to present that item before at the Economic Development Subcommittee, but really this is the highlight end for council, and we'll take it from here.
Okay, good evening. Again, my name is Stacy Lauman. I'm the Economic Development Program Manager here with the City of San Rafael. It's my pleasure to share with you today our annual report of the Economic Development Strategic Plan for the City of San Rafael. The strategic plan was adopted by your council in May 2023. It's a 5-year plan, so it's to cover the years of 2023 to 2028. The council identified 7 strategy areas. They're listed here: business support and development support, downtown reimagination, infrastructure financing different districts or some type of financing tools for the city of San Rafael, strengthening local partnerships, attracting high-tech industry uses, outreach to businesses, and workforce development programs. So within those 7 areas, there are 31 program tasks. And you'll see in the chart on the right how the tasks were organized by implementation years 1 through 5. We worked over the last year to make sure that the highest priority items in the Economic Development Strategic Plan were integrated into your recently adopted 3-year strategic plan for the city of San Rafael. So you'll see most of these high priority items in Work Plan Area A, which is economic and neighborhood vitality, and Work Plan Area F, which is high performing government. So this is just to give you a snapshot of where we are in terms of progress. Of the 31 task items, we've made really significant progress in implementing and also working toward implementing most of those items. You'll see there are 3 categories: implementing, developing, and not started. So implementing means those projects that we have fully implemented and are working on. Developing is that we are possibly not funded or possibly working toward the implementation plan, putting things in motion to put those programs forward. Of the 7 focus areas down below, you'll see several areas we are fully implementing, and several areas we've moved toward progress, and then there are a couple areas where we have made less progress toward implementing. So I would say primarily we've been focusing on 2 areas. One of them is business support and outreach, really connecting with the business community, connecting with the development community to make sure that we're implementing what we're calling the San Rafael Go program. That's our concierge-style service to help businesses, developers, folks that are interested in doing business or staying in business here in San Rafael. We want to help them navigate through our internal city processes so that they can make good business decisions and move forward with their businesses. The areas that we've made less progress are in attracting high-tech industrial uses. I'll mention that Micah may talk a little bit later, but upcoming, we're going to be working on a Southeast San Rafael specific plan that will really focus on what is the vision for Southeast San Rafael. And the majority of our industrial lands are in Southeast San Rafael, so we've held off on implementing those programs until we have a good idea of where we'd like to go in terms of vision for that area of the city. And then the other area where we've paused some progress is on identifying resources to create a financing tool to support things like infrastructure, things like sea level rise, long-term financial considerations. Here I'll just list some of the major accomplishments, and this is not inclusive of everything we've been doing, but as I mentioned before, the San Rafael Go program is something that we're really trying to identify within the community as San Rafael staff are here to be your resource. Let us work with you to make sure you can access the city's resources together. So we're doing that through a broker outreach, through business outreach, and we also have had significant numbers of major developers contact us to help identify their questions early so that they can come to the city with a more complete development application. We made some major changes to the cannabis program. Particularly, we made a fee reduction for retail delivery businesses so that they could overcome some financial hurdles in that industry, and that's a 2-year fee reduction for those businesses. We also implemented a 2-year fee reduction for streeteries. You may recall that we had several streeteries that were having trouble coming into compliance with our city permitting program. We've refined our permitting process both for streeteries that are in the drive lane as well as outdoor dining, which is on sidewalks. We have a new permit application for that that's integrated into our OpenGov permit system. And we also offered a 2-year reduction in fees for restaurants that would like to implement a streetery. My colleagues worked very hard to establish a mobile vending ordinance to help navigate the challenges of folks that are trying to be entrepreneurs in the community, and also making sure that we have health and safety requirements adhered to while providing food and beverage on street. I've also worked closely with the Downtown San Rafael Arts District, which is a collaboration of nonprofit arts organizations, to implement a 3-year grant from the California Arts Council. So recently, you may have seen a mural on a private property that went up on the side of Meta Yoga on Sejo Street at 4th Street. That project was funded in part by our grant from the California Arts Council. And this Wednesday, you also see a first sculpture of the 5-piece public art program that will be temporarily installed at the B Street Community Center before it's moved sometime in the fall to its future location proposed at the east or western gateway of downtown 4th Street. We were also able to work with our colleagues in the police department to transfer administration of our events program to the Community and Economic Development Department. And lastly, I'll say that we've been doing some economic analysis and really evaluating how we receive revenue to the city through a sales tax analysis. We invited our colleagues at HDL to provide a presentation to the Economic Development Subcommittee around sales tax. And that, as Mayor Kate had mentioned earlier, is available online for viewing if anyone's interested in that. I want to mention that this has been, 2025 has been a catalytic year for development. As of December, January, we had 18 major projects that had come through our planning department, representing just a staggering amount of new development proposed in the city, primarily residential housing development. So developers are investing millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in our city, and I think that's a source of pride, perhaps for the community, and particularly for those that are interested in providing housing at all levels of income and need in the city. I think especially the number of units that are proposed for downtown San Rafael, currently they're sitting at around 1,000 units, will really change who can live downtown and what access folks have to the retail activities on the 4th Street. A couple of examples are here. The first one is 800 Mission Street. That's been occupied for some time now. It's owned by Aegis Living, and it provides 101 housing. It opened in August 25. And I bring this up to you because I wanted to just mention that the development of that property represents a 300% increase in property tax. So that kind of development brings investment into our community in many ways. It provides jobs, construction jobs, ongoing jobs, and also property tax revenue. The next project I want to mention is 930 Irwin Street. It's being developed, the property name is going to be Modera. It will provide 210 apartments, family apartments at kind of a luxury range generally, with some inclusionary units as well. That project broke ground in 2025, and the anticipated opening is in 2028. Folks will see a lot of construction happening now along Irwin Street with that project. Again, that's a good example of how we worked with the developer through the San Rafael Go program. The developer came to us very early, asked what they needed to do to develop in San Rafael, how to ask the right questions, and we tried to guide them as much as possible through their pre-development process, so we would have a really smooth construction and development process in the pipeline.
I'll just add, like, along these processes, that's the kind of first stop with the city, right, on the GO program, but it continues through every single department throughout the development review process and even to the construction phase. We continue to work with them. There's multiple issues get identified, and how do we work with that? Like Modera and specifically, how to work through some of the utility issues. So we've been working with them, even though it's not our issue, but it's an issue in order to then get them to be developed or pull their permits. So this is kind of that example of the concierge level services supporting that development to ultimately get it done, because this is what it takes to actually deliver some of these projects. Stuff that's outside of our purview or control, but we also connect them and support them and strategize with them how to be successful in these items, but also build better working relationships with all our development partners. As they're new projects to us, they're also new projects to them. So it's really kind of bringing them on board on how we actually do these things and how we proceed with the development. So.
Thank you, Micah. And I would say that's true of 703 3rd Street. That project is not under construction yet, but a great example of collaboration is working with our colleagues in Department of Public Works and understanding some of the bike and ped transit lanes that are going to be coming on that street in the future that needed to be accommodated in a design very early. So making sure that those connections were made, and information that was not readily available to a developer, we were able to connect the developer and make sure that they took those plans into consideration so they didn't waste time essentially for their own development purposes. I will mention that our department hosts an online interactive web tool called the Major Projects page, where someone can go on to an interactive map and click on a location. They'll see a picture of the building that is proposed, and then if they click through that, they can access all the plans that are public information that the city's received in terms of those development proposals. In terms of retail, there has been a lot of activity in this realm also, particularly I'll talk about some national brands that have joined us in San Rafael and also some local folks that have brought their brands here or expanded their brands. So in terms of national brands, as you may be aware, our auto industry is extremely strong, and we were happy to have Polestar join the family of dealerships in our East San Rafael area. We were able to re-tenant some other sort of strip mall area, big box stores with Five Below off of Anderson area. Wingstop and Little Caesars also came into the Marin Square shopping center area. And in terms of local brands, we've seen a lot of activity on 4th Street. As you may be aware, the Burin House has been very active and well received by the community. Burin Live is an entertainment venue that's being developed next door to the house or the pub. We have several new pizzerias that are coming or have come to San Rafael. Freewheel Brewery is also very active now, and another brewery, Hidden Splendor, is also coming into the former stateroom space. Freewheel Brewery, again, another example of the GO program where that brewer was interested in opening a beer-only space and wondering how they could do that and also activate the existing streetery that had some permitting issues. So we worked with them to make sure that they could get their licensing and their permitting up and running in a timely manner. So now I'll talk a little bit about data and indicators. So some of the ways we track progress in the city is through total taxable sales, through assessed value of properties, and tourism. So this first slide is talking a little bit about taxable sales, and the chart will show you that over time, generally taxable sales have been increasing. Unfortunately, we don't have 2025 data on this chart, but you will see that as of 2024, when we made this information, the indicators point to increasing sales. And I will remind folks also that we do receive tax revenue both from brick and mortar sales tax, but also from a pool of tax that comes to us from online sales. But this is a great reminder that we are a small business city, and we are a small business city that employs people and also supports local business. So I'd encourage everyone to remember to shop local, particularly as early May is Small Business Week coming up. The lower chart here is a representation of what types of sectors generate the greatest sales tax and they have the greatest overall sales volume. So you'll see here that we are, as a city, dominated primarily by motor vehicles and motor vehicle parts, followed by other outlets, but primarily followed by building materials, garden equipment, those kinds of things. So we have a lot of construction in the city and a lot of vehicle sales that really carry us. So we want to make sure that when we're talking about business retention in the future and economic vitality, we want to make sure that we're supporting those businesses and paying attention to them so that they can thrive moving forward.
And I'll just add that, that's one of those key sectors that we really do target and support for business retention and support. But if you look at the other sectors, it really gives us a lot of avenue or areas to there's a lot of opportunity there. So a lot of it really for me is about space opportunity and that targeting those type of businesses or that we're looking for in this community, provide goods and services. Does the city offer the right spaces for them? So that's really some of the goal when we look at some of these redevelopment opportunities. Are the types of businesses we're targeting, do we offer the type of space that they'd be interested in? If we look at some of our vacancies, we have a lot of large scale pieces, like they're big box pieces, old movie theaters, those are really those opportunities for us to reposition ourselves for what people are looking for today, different kinds of developments, maybe mixed use or specific. I like to look for regional retail sales. So there's other pieces we kind of target ourselves and look at. And we have limited opportunities. There's only so much commercial land asset and industrial land asset in the city. So really when we make those trade-offs for housing or other, we do have to be thoughtful about how we do those things.
The next key performance indicator is property value. And so we found that over year to year, the overall taxable value of all types of our property in San Rafael increased by 3.3%. And when we dug into that a little bit more, we found that commercial properties, which includes retail and a range of commercial activities, that grew in 23 to 24 by 5.7%, and industrial properties grew in value by 4.2%. I do think that those things will change a little bit after when we look at our data from next year, because there have been some significant things that have moved, particularly at Northgate, particularly with a few other coming properties that have a lot of square footage that have turned over recently.
Yeah, when I look at charts like this, they're relatively flat. We kind of look at really the opportunity on growth, and even look at the industrial asset at 4.1% vacancy and occupancy. This is actually an area that's been, over the past, I'd say, decade, one of the strongest industries in the Bay Area. And we just really have never really made moves into that industry or supported new building stock or a kind of modern industrial, maybe smaller, more boutique production. There are those opportunities for this community, and that's why I am excited. We kind of look at the Southeast Santa Fe Specific Plan, looking at that as a model to actually how to get investment within those, because not only is it just the space itself, but it's really the opportunity to attract those businesses and employment. It's that balance we're always looking for. It's not just housing, it's also employment. And those do offer good quality jobs. So that really is an opportunity for us to continue to kind of work towards and target for our limited resources. So.
Thank you, Micah. And on the right side, you'll see we pulled a little bit of data on commercial vacancy rates as well. I think this will change also next year, but I'd like to point out a couple things, and that is for the retail vacancy, that really, or the occupancy rates are primarily in our kind of commercial strip mall areas in sort of commercial, like areas that are single owner, investor type situations. So small, very small, 4th Street, individual owner, small landholder, those vacancies seem to be a little bit higher than some of our more commercial corridor areas. Office vacancy continues to be high, and that's no surprise given the post-COVID the resulting loss of occupancy of office.
And then in kind of response on that office change, and this has really been kind of one of the bread and butter industries for San Rafael. And the job creators has really been our office market. And with the change in work habits, remote work, and just really the office spaces that people look for, we've also started to see those office assets change hands. They're either put on the market and sold for other uses, like 4040 Civic Center is actually a good example of that, an office building being converted to residential. I do anticipate other office assets coming in with similar requests.
And the last indicator that we'll talk about is tourism. And I think this is an indication of downtown vibrancy, community activity, cultural economy. So we have a transit occupancy tax for all hotel stays, and that's pegged at 10% of a stay. So in 2025, the city's revenue from the TOT was $3.5 million, and that's pretty consistent over the last several years. We also have Marin County Tourism Business Improvement District, and that charges a 2% assessment of gross receipts on all hotel stays, and that goes to the Marin County Convention and Tourism Board. And in 2024, I'll just note that the CVB revenue generated from San Rafael was about $736,000. Which is about 43% of the CVB's total revenue. So San Rafael does play a significant part in the hotel revenue generation of the County of Marin. So looking forward into the next fiscal year, I'll just mention a few of these programs that we'll continue to expand upon. The San Rafael Go program I mentioned previously. The next thing we're doing is increased marketing. I'm working with a couple different colleagues in the cultural economy space. I'm also working with my colleagues at the Downtown Business Improvement District, at the Chamber of Commerce, at looking at ways to really boost awareness of San Rafael. We've also had a conversation with the Marin County CVB to see where San Rafael sits in terms of their visitation, marketing, and promotions. We've been talking about potential funding models and looking at how San Rafael could generate revenue or generate interest and opportunity through tourism and creative marketing. With resource collaboration, we've been really working closely with the Chamber of Commerce. We have an agreement with them this year to help ask them to promote the GO program through their businesses and activities, and also working with other community organizations like the Canal Alliance at looking at things like opportunity zones as we come into the possibility of identifying an opportunity zone 2.0. I'm glad to say that our Department of Public Works and City Manager's Office have been working hard on updating the Second and Irwin gateway here in the city of San Rafael. So if folks notice the area on the central San Rafael off-ramp northbound where we have flags and a marquee sign, those will be updated pretty soon with new landscaping and a fresh new look for the city, so that's exciting. In addition to that, as I mentioned earlier, we're working on arts programming and closing out a really large grant from the California Arts Council with the Public Art Program and some other arts activations that are happening there as well. I'll also mention that our colleagues in Library and Recreation put on a lot of really fun, particularly summer activities. So we're working in collaboration to do some marketing and promotions around activities with the Library and Recreation Department as well.
So also looking forward on key initiatives, particularly for the development pipeline, is really starting to see some of these buildings go vertical. Some of those large scale, like, ribbon cutting, we have a couple of different ceremonial events that come off. They really kick off these large scale investments. Some of these projects are going to be multi-year for construction, but these are $200 million in investments on a single development project site, which is significant for us and really kind of driving really the council's vision for more density in housing within the downtown, but other parts of the city too, like Northgate. The grocery store get for Northgate is significant. We are fast tracking that, working forward to get that one moving as quick as we can and developing the team to deliver it. So really, that's really our hope from this. One thing, it's kind of the most challenging thing to do in the community, particularly for economic development, is kind of build that groundswell of excitement. And I see all the parts and pieces of things that the city has done and completed, our staff, the type of development activity. Now it's the opportunity to deliver those items. That excitement is going to continue to grow upon itself. But we really do need to make those physical changes, and that's where a lot of our time and effort have been working on the systems to get those in place. So I really just want to call those things out to say this is that opportunity, this is the year. I think we start to see that physical change happen for San Rafael.
Thank you for listening. I'm happy to take any questions.
Fantastic presentation. I'll see if there's some questions. Vice Mayor, go ahead.
I have a couple of questions. Thank you. Great report, and I actually did have an opportunity to watch the Economic Subcommittee video, so a lot was answered there, but I do want to bring up a couple of questions. Understandably, there's a lot of focus between downtown and East San Rafael from on the commercial side, but you talk about the corridor, right, the highway corridor, and there's northeast San Rafael. And I'm wondering if there's been additional conversation or focus around that strategy for that particular area at this point.
That area is identified in the economic strategic plan itself as really the one's catalyst, really the movie theater site. We kind of look at northeast San Rafael. I do think there is opportunity for that for both the office complex along with the movie theater site, but there has not been a specific vision established really for that kind of corridor end. I do think there's opportunity, and this really is part of the driver of one of the council specific items, which is implementation of the Northgate PDA grant or a Northgate specific plan that's targeted within the area. I do see that as a build off from that, like solve this piece and then you can expand that vision off to the other portions. But it's to be determined in terms of timing.
Would that Northgate plan cover the northeast side, or would it be the east side of the freeway?
Yeah, unfortunately, that scope of that area is really specific to the PDA. So really that opportunity to expand that scope would be something that the city would have to consider, potentially council, one of our next work program items to expand that boundary into the other portions off of Redwood Highway. There's a lot of opportunity within that area, but I think it's also kind of imperative we also look at the industrial play off of Mitchell and that whole back end area. But that's why I do think that industrial vision is so critical as we start to lay those greater plans out. So Smith Ranch Road is one portion of it that has opportunity, but I also think the industrial lands off of
The
that
industrial,
park.
right, that's
Yeah.
what's not being utilized today. It's very, very stark. Another question I have is around, I get asked all the time, because we see the signage that's up around the businesses on 4th Street, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Can you speak to why some businesses are able to move faster than others, and where is that delay? How are those delays, addressed?
I think one thing this is just my experience working with various, industry types within economic development or development. One of the hardest ones is actually restaurants. Restaurant investment, given the county health departments and, the provisions, maybe it'd be the grease interceptors, they're very technical in needs. So sometimes those delays get expanded on. What I will say though is a lot of our building stock actually has been some of the problem. We've had a lot of much older building stock that has not been invested into some time. So when there is a significant investment of a new restaurant or new commercial kitchen, a lot of those costs are borne onto the tenant, and it's an added layer of time and complexity. So I do think if there is an opportunity to kind of explore different programs, it might be probably ones that are eatery driven, food and beverage, just because of the complexities within those things. Plus, you also look at all the regulatory agencies that actually touch those. So if you have alcohol, and you're also dealing with alcohol beverage control. So there's multiple things that a lot of times, that's the hard part when I look at restaurants, is the excitement they have driven. We want to open, ready to go. And okay, let's take the list of things we need to check off in order to do that. And we're starting to see that, but we are helping maneuver through that, and it's really been some support of the GO program, and even our partnership, like the small partnership with the mobile food vending with the county, has opened up different doors in our avenues we have. So it's continuing to build upon those, but as we kind of project out on kind of future task items, as we check off some of these work program items, I do think like a type of food program support, because that is primarily what you can't buy on the internet. So,
Right.
And we're starting to see more and more of that type of activity here.
And I know the county is looking at theirs as well to try to accelerate their process in terms of how to move some of those pieces forward faster as well.
Yes.
Okay, good. And then in the 2026-27 planning thoughts, cannabis wasn't there. It was there for 25-26, and we did adjust that. That's a significant piece of revenue that many of our neighboring jurisdictions are increasingly taking advantage of in terms of revenue. Is there further consideration at this point?
I think it's still one of those items that's worked through on the work program. I think we did actually, resource-wise, push that, but I do think there's opportunities as we keep looking at revenue opportunities. The real question, though, I think we have to balance off is retail, because really the question that's being posed into the city is retail cannabis appropriate? That really becomes a larger scale policy question. Also location. And the one area that I think we always kind of grapple with is, okay, where? There is a balance to this that I think is a little tougher question to kind of tackle. But I do think it is going to be one of those targeted work program items to say, okay, prioritization-wise, where's this land within the resources that we have?
Can you, from that perspective, from your expertise and your understanding of what's happening in neighboring jurisdictions, are we leaving revenue on the table?
From just my rough view of it, it's really an exchange. We also have to recognize a lot of the revenue is done by delivery, which we already have. So does the model adjust where the retail actually takes away some of the delivery standpoint? So those are still kind of questions that I have on that kind of model about bringing in brick and mortar retail of cannabis in here. What happens to the delivery market, which is actually somewhat strong for us, even though the regulated market's challenging, just given a slew of factors. But that's one of those things I think we just need to analyze a little deeper.
Vice Mayor, if I could just add, I guess anecdotally, potentially revenue, any business that might be an opportunity has a revenue potential. There's also costs associated with administration and oversight of the program. So we're always looking for net revenue in these opportunities, but that is an area that has come up a couple times in discussion, particularly at the subcommittee. So we have it on our radar. Our current cannabis tax revenue does not even cover our cost of administering our current licenses. So it's a broader conversation than just, is there another business opportunity there that could generate revenue? It's a larger conversation.
Thank you. And then I'd say if they're, with looking at the next 6 to 12 months, what would you say would be the top 2 to 3 changes that you'd want to see right now if we are looking at trying to, attraction, retention, speed to opening? What are the top 2 to 3 that we need to look at?
Well, I think for speed to opening is continuing to work with our businesses and help them through the regulatory processes, absolutely. And then I think we'll look to the work plan to continue to do what we have been assigned to do in terms of marketing, communications, and supporting businesses. Do you have anything to add, Mike?
Yeah, really, it's some of the other areas that are actually not within economic development that are economic development related, which is some of the building and permitting process improvements. Really our launch of the new OpenGov platform. Like, there's been significant investment made on this stuff to actually help speed up the process from that, or at least identify people like what you need to do and how you need to do it. So that's really been a lot of our effort. So like for me, implementing some of those programmatic changes, and these are long-standing issues. Like the last time we did a permit backbone replacement was like almost 30 years ago. So we just launched that last couple of months. So we're still working through some of the growing pains from that, but positive feedback thus far. But it's still more refinement and work to do to finish up that project. I think that's one of the key areas we're focused on.
I might add one more area that tangentially related to economic development, but certainly related to some of the metrics. The ED subcommittee a couple of meetings ago heard a presentation from HDL on sales tax and sales tax opportunities. I've recently been made aware of some efforts through the City Manager's Department, the League of Cities, where there's a proposal being developed to look at the allocation of sales tax related to e-commerce, and particularly out-of-state e-commerce businesses, which currently those sales tax dollars go through the county pool and get allocated across the county pool through the arcane formulas. And at least the proposal that we haven't analyzed yet, but would be to, for those sales tax dollars to be split so that half of it might go to the county pool, but at least half of it goes to the jurisdiction where the products are delivered, which would just formulaically likely benefit San Rafael in terms of the allocation of those dollars, and we'll just be tracking that should it turn into a legislative proposal that we could use some help getting through.
Great, thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Micah.
Great, thank you so much. Fantastic presentation, really helpful. And if there is anything that we can do for advocacy to make sure that the legislation comes to place, I will be very supportive. So, so since we were talking about, like, I guess, businesses downtown, and I guess some of the vacancies, and I think, Stacy, you mentioned how there are like small businesses, and I know that so many of the business owners, they rather keep it empty than actually renting it sometimes, unless they meet their very high rental prices. So I was wondering, I know that there are some municipalities, I think in San Francisco, where if it's empty for like 6 months or more, they have to pay a fee. So I'm curious to see if that's something that we could contemplate in the near future, just to help, or if there is any type of incentive for business owners to rent their spaces. Yeah.
I think we can definitely take that under advisement or opportunities. We always look at the balance of carrots and sticks, right? So, I've been a part of a couple communities that have adopted that, but then kind of to Acting City Manager Navazio's point about program administration and costs, sometimes it doesn't get the return you're looking for. So sometimes it might be more of the active incentives to actually get them to lease their spaces. A lot of times what we find is those spaces are they're really large spaces. We have like historic buildings, different mercantile, like it had a different era of need. It's 5,000 square feet. We only need 500. So it's just understanding the modern day retail, but then what do we do with these other spaces, how to break them up differently. I do think we're gonna get more and more opportunity. But one thing I'm actually excited about really is trying to bring in some of the new households, like the new development we talk about for households has a different demographic, a different need. This 24/7 kind of downtown that we've always kind of pursued, I think we're on the doorstep of trying to pursuing that even greater with new households. But as I said, I do think San Rafael has a lot of strengths in a lot of areas, and we continue to do that. So like one of our biggest efforts, really business retention. Keep who you got, support them and keep them operating, and then try to work on filling those other vacant spaces with those different property owners. And that really has been kind of our model so far. It's been working, but still more to come. But a lot of times it's those building needs. We talk about the older building stock. It's really the conditions of the buildings are so much investment required, and a lot of times those property owners are not willing to make that level of investment.
Yeah, thank you. And I do have experience when I opened my restaurant back in the day, so I know about the buildings. Do we know how, I know that we always say, like, in the East San Rafael businesses, they bring like over 60% of the revenue for the city. Do you have the number for this year, for 2025? And if you don't,
Yeah,
it's
no, we could
fine.
definitely follow up and provide that
Yeah.
detail. But one thing I always like to do is recognize, I totally granted, East San Rafael in terms of our auto dealerships and Home Depot. But you kind of carve some of those pieces off, you kind of get a better story about neighborhood-wise, what else is supporting those businesses. So just understanding the kind of 101 targeted end, along with Home Depot and Target, those are kind of the mainstays. Core businesses for really Marin. That's really the bread and butter of Marin, that those basic goods and services are provided in Marin. But then for on the neighborhood level, what else is missing? And I think that's more of the data analysis we're starting to dive into from a neighborhood specific area. Like, what else is missing here? What else do we not have? Then we can start to do some of those active outreaches to try to fill some of those voids, at least from the neighborhood perspective.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know that in talking to the businesses from East San Rafael, they always love to know the number, and they are very proud of it. So yes. The other question I have, I guess this is like more like long term, but as we are looking at how people are purchasing cars now, how our gas stations they might transform into something different. Um, as we are looking to the future, have we worked at all into some vision of how the revenue is going to look differently, I guess, for our taxes?
Yes, the Southeast Santa Fe specific plan is one of the key kickoff starts for that, and really talking about what is this community vision over time. One thing I've been a part of a couple different communities that have either converted or changed their auto row. One that are really hard to replace the revenue and job creation. But one thing is nice though is the level of investment on those properties, because it's usually one building and a pretty open lot. How quickly things can assemble. They're large scale assembled parcels. So having at least a secondary vision of what happens to auto after it leaves is kind of a key piece. So I think that's one thing that I think we can start to evaluate as part of the East Santa Fe specific plan of what is the ultimate vision for these areas in industrial reuse. What parts should be industrial, which ones are more residential interfaced. Also what it requires to actually meet some of the infrastructure requirements. So that's really the struggle I think we're going to evaluate when we start looking at that plan. But right now, at least from a revenue perspective, from where we're at and what we're doing is we try to support what we have, and this is how and why people shop today. But over time, I don't disagree with you, things will change, but then being prepared for what that looks like, but not actually waiting for that shoe to drop, because I do think the auto industry has been told multiple times they're dead, but they continue to thrive. And reinvent themselves because people love their cars.
That is very true, especially Marine. And my last question is around the mobile vending program. I know that we are collaborating with the county. Have we seen and I know that we approve specific funding to support our local residents. So have we started seeing some progress, like how many people have taken advantage of these?
So that's one where we just launched a couple of different program ends, and we'll probably have a follow-up date. I think it's a great follow-up report back into the Economic and Housing Subcommittee. We did put out a RFP for vendor support partnership, so I think we're continuing to negotiate from the different vendors who put in on that, but that would be actually a good one to bring back to the subcommittee for a report, and if we'd like, we can follow up with council through a memo.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you, and I just have two questions. So one is on the Marin County Tourism Board. I think I've asked this question every single time I've had the presentation over the last decade. So just to recall what the slide said, it was 2% goes to the board, approximately $770,000. And that represents almost half of the money that they get. So my question to you all is, I sure would like to have more say into where those dollars go. And I don't know if that means bringing it, instead of they get 2%, they get 1%, and we get another 1% back here. I don't know the original agreement. I know it's been in place for a long time. And I know that other cities and towns have different agreements with the same board. So I'm curious what the plan is around that, because I don't feel confident sitting here today that the board has been helping drive our economic engine, and maybe that's unfair, but I have had presentation from them 2 years ago. So I'm curious what staff is thinking in that area, because I know we like to work with our county partners, but that's a big chunk of change, and we have a lot that we want to do here in San Rafael.
So that is a targeted task item within the work program, evaluation of that CVB, along with the different tax revenue, our own TOT provision at 10%. I do think there's opportunity if we want to change that ourselves, but also evaluate really this other 2% ad tax. We've had multiple conversations, at least from a staff level, evaluating kind of the approach or kind of coming to the very similar conclusions to say, we'd love to see a better return to the payers who pay into it, supporting San Rafael hotel operations. But I will say that, Acting City Manager Navasio, along with some of the city manager staff, has connected with the county, and I'll let him follow up on that.
Yeah, I'd say we concur with the mayor's sentiment, and Santa Fe's not alone in this. And I'm just aware of some initial conversations amongst the cities and towns that participate. Not all of the cities, I believe, participate in the bid, as well as with the county administrator, who's looking at this, among other things, as part of a broader reset of the countywide economic vitality plan. But I anticipate not only continuing, but maybe pushing that conversation a little bit and seeing if we can get some traction and it's not just about the dollars, but it's really also about the accountability and the governance structure that supports a countywide entity such as the Visitor and Tourism Bureau, really demonstrating the return on the dollars.
Thank you for having those conversations. I think the city has been very, very patient over the last 5 years, 10 years in this conversation. So I think at one point, maybe it would be taking some action and then they can start earning it back. I don't know what it is, but I don't know how my colleagues feel about it, but I know that Councilmember Hill and Councilmember Bushing said the same thing when they've been up here. So just putting a little underline on that. And I know it is part of the work plan, if there's a way we can assist those conversations, but it might be at a point where the collaboration part that we need to take action and then we'll build the collaboration around it. But okay, so I just thank you for those. I know that's a tough, a sensitive conversation to have with them, but an important one. And then the next question, different topic on the public arts. So grateful for the funding that we receive from the state. Do we have any sense if the state, and we know we're reading their budget constraints in the newspaper, is there any chance that the state will be providing additional dollars in the years to come, or is it so hard to tell right now? Have they given any indication?
At the more recent California Arts Council meeting, there was no mention of future funding through this avenue.
So because there are other cities that also are cultural art districts, so we probably are all have the same.
Yes, CAC identified 10 additional districts about 6 months ago, and they received $5,000 a year for 2 years as an award with that.
5,000?
However, yes.
Okay.
However, there was no additional award for the existing 14 districts.
Okay.
So I think we're waiting. Arts Advocacy Day is at the Capitol coming up next month, or actually end of this month. So I know that several of our arts collaborators are going up to advocate for arts awareness and creative economy and additional funding for the arts.
Thank you. It'd be great to share those talking points with the council, because we see our state legislators all the time, and it'd be nice to have that information, put a bug in their ear too.
Sure, I'm happy to forward that information to you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'd like to open it up for public comment on this item. If you have any thoughts or questions on the Economic Development Strategic Plan update, now is your opportunity. I don't see anyone coming down to address the council, so I'll close the public comment. Are there any additional questions? Well, any comments? Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
No, I really appreciate the update. It's one of those, no matter what you do, we could always do more, right? And so it's a lot of work, and there's only so many things that we as a city can control, but I do think there are things that we are moving in the right direction, and we can continue moving even more so in that direction. So I'm looking forward. I'd love just to see things open, and especially as we're moving into the summer months where we do get more people into the city. So we hear some real positive feedback around that, but I really appreciate it. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing the updated numbers as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Micah.
Yes, thank you again for the presentation, and I know that you are extremely busy with between housing and economic development, so it's like non-stop. I love seeing the new businesses coming into town, but also, as you mentioned, it's very important to make sure that we retain the current businesses as well. I would love to see those empty spaces filled, whatever we can do to incentive the homeowners to make a move, that would be nice. And thank you for acknowledging the importance of supporting our local businesses and shop local. And there is a big difference between not only the tax revenue that we get from the from the stores that in San Rafael versus shopping online, but also the employment and the economic vitality that they really bring. So thank you so much, and keep up the great work. We'll continue working and whatever we can do to support you. I also wanted to do a special mention. I love the plan and especially around marketing. I think social media for the city of San Rafael is working really well, especially lately. And I love to see some promotions that we can always share and make sure that we can all share it and make it available. So to encourage people to come to support our businesses. So thank you.
And I'll just add my gratitude. We adopted this plan almost exactly 3 years ago. So this is only the third time we've talked about it with the community from the dais, and the amount of work that you've done in those 3 years, the mighty team of two, and I know you have other staff that support, but it's incredible the work that you've been able to do, and having that very clear vision and plan. We might be one of the only jurisdictions in Marin County that has an economic development plan, both short, near, and long term, or medium and long term, and it really will continue to set us apart. And as the Vice Mayor mentioned, the county is starting on their economic strategic plan, but we're not waiting for them. I think that's the clear message here. We have not been waiting for the county, and we're never going to wait for the county. We're going to keep doing what's right for our businesses, both the downtown up in North San Rafael and South San Rafael, and we're doing fantastic work. And I love seeing how everything is just on the cusp. When public art's going to start opening up, we have new businesses coming in, beautification, a lot of things are going to start coming together that have been in the works for years. So thank you for all that you've done. This is really exciting, and I look forward to talking with the county to get some more money on that. Sorry, I just had to slip that in there one more time in case I wasn't emphatic enough. With that, I would appreciate a motion on this item, please.
I'll make a motion to accept the Economic Development Strategic Plan update.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yeden Scolati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 3-0. Thank you so much, Micah. Thank you, Stacy. Our next item is the new main library and community center project delivery. And I did note when we were reading this that the subcommittee is comprised of the two council members that are actually not here. So if you're also, in addition to the presentation, have any input from what the subcommittee, what's been talked about, would be helpful, I think, for the three of us, because normally they would provide that input as well. Thank you.
Totally. Thank you. Mayor Kate, good evening. Members of City Council, John Stefanski, Assistant City Manager. I'm here this evening with our Capital Project Manager, Gary Chubb, with Griffin Structures. And then on the brand new Zoom televisions we have in here, we also have Craig Hayes, who is a contract attorney with Best and Krieger, who is supporting us. And then also in the audience, I would be remiss if I didn't call out our amazing project team, Public Works Director Miller and Library Recreation Director Kufa, as well as Assistant Director Craig Verame. And so we're here this evening to provide an update on the Measure P project, the new library and community center at Albert Park, as well as discuss and get feedback regarding our plan for a project delivery approach. And so this is a presentation, like you said, Mayor Kate, that was given to the Measure P subcommittee back in February, and it was well received, including staff's initial recommendation around a progressive design build approach, which Gary and the team will go through in greater depth. But we're looking for, to have this presentation with the remainder of the council this evening to get the green light so we can get the trains moving on the project. So with that, I'm going to hand it off over to Gary to kick off the presentation.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John, and good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. I want to talk about tonight's discussion. We're going to briefly review where we've been over the last 4 months. A lot of hard work has gone into this. We're going to present delivery method evaluation options and recommendation and receive City Council direction. So what have we been up to? The last 4 months, we've worked very hard with city staff, Catherine's team, Measure P, and we've determined that the best solution today is a 50,000 square foot building, which is a shared building between library and community. We've allocated 32,000 square foot for outdoor program space. And the parking is something that we will determine later on. Once a design is vetted, city staff will do a parking now. So the parking, we have an allocation, an idea, but it's TBD. We are excited at this point of the project to be focused on a community-focused, flexible, and multi-use facility. And community outreach will help refine the program. And we have an exciting opportunity in the next 45 days to take our building program and recommendation to stakeholders and get their input, do a survey, and make sure we incorporate that feedback into eventually going out and hiring a design team in the future. So what the facility will deliver: integrated civic destination, modern library services for all ages, flexible classrooms and enrichment spaces, multi-purpose event venue, cultural and community programming, indoor and outdoor gathering spaces, and a lifelong learning and wellness opportunities. Next slide. Through the work we've done heretofore, at this point we've derived a target budget, which is $105 million. That's comprised of your building construction, your site improvements, your parking, escalation, which is inflation in our economy and in our industry. We've taken into consideration those estimates for today. Professional service fees, furniture and special equipment, and a healthy contingency makes up that $105 million. Now, this is not the last bite of the apple. This is got to remember, we're of a 5.5-year journey. We're at month 5. So this is the best information we've gathered to date to formulate a target. We're going to bring back this to council multiple times as the project progresses through the various stages in design. Next.
And if I can just add on to this slide as well, working with Gary and the team around developing what a conceptual program looks like is also factoring in what we anticipate, what our bonding capacity will be with Measure P, in addition to the revenue that the city is already receiving. And so that's where we feel at $105 million, we're in a good spot, particularly with some of the contingency lines that we have here. But I did want to just call that out.
Thank you, John. So now we're going to pivot to what we call delivery method. There's 4 factors that we like to bring forth. The decision impacts the schedule, impacts cost certainty, it defines risk allocation, and it determines team collaboration. Next slide. So in the staff report, you've read the recommendation to what we call progressive design build. This particular slide tries to highlight the timeline advantages of using this delivery method. We've done a deep study on your project, and we have come up with a 6-month savings in time from using a traditional design bid build, the old way of doing business, to utilizing a procurement method and a delivery that saves time. So for our project, your project, right now we're modeling a 6-month savings. Next slide. This slide compares schedule, cost control, risk to city, and collaboration over the 3 studied delivery methods. The first column is design bid build, the traditional. The second column is design build. And the third column is what we're recommending tonight for progressive. The schedule, as you can see on this slide, it goes from longest to fastest. Progressive design build is the fastest. Cost control, traditionally, you don't know what the project cost until you're about to break ground. You go through a public bid process. You know, you open your Christmas present one day and you see what it's going to cost, and now you have to make the award. Progressive design build flips the script. It's a continuous feedback because you have all the professionals on board to go through that process. Risk to the city, design bid build is the highest. Design build is a moderate, and progressive design build is balanced. And in collaboration, which I personally love this delivery method over the last 15 years, the collaboration on progressive design build is the highest you can achieve, which means we're a team. We collaborate with all team members early and often. Okay, next slide. So why progressive design build? Continuous cost alignment during design, open book guarantee maximum price early in the process, early contractor input reduces risk, faster delivery reduces escalation. That's the reduction of schedule. Single point of accountability. That means the city is contracting with a progressive design build team for design and construction under one envelope. And most importantly, the city benefits from going through the selection of that team early, and it's what we call a best value. Thank you, John.
Yep. So before we kind of get to the staff recommendation, I want to provide some additional context. As with progressive design build, this is a newer delivery method authorized under state law, and specifically with progressive design build, state law mandates that the selected design build entity and every subcontractor at every tier has to utilize a skilled and trained workforce. That's the term, skilled and trained workforce, for all work in an apprenticeable occupation in the building and construction trades. And so with that, the city has really two ways to satisfy the requirement to meet that skilled and trained workforce requirement. The first is through what's called an enforceable obligation or enforceable agreement, which is a written commitment the city enters into with the design build entity prior to selection, requiring that contractor and all of their subs to comply with the skilled and trained workforce requirements. Under this obligation, the contractor has to submit to the city, and then the city has to go through a process of validating on a monthly basis a report that's demonstrating their compliance, so looking at certified payroll and ensuring that the workers who are working on the project are complying with the requirements of state law. So there is a considerable administrative burden there, and that's important. We'll get to that in a second. And then there's also some legal exposure to the city, because if there is a subcontractor at a whatever tier, and they're falling short of meeting their thresholds for journey persons on the job, the city could then face some additional delays or potentially litigation, which is of concern. Now, the second path is through what's called a project labor agreement. These are pre-hiring collective bargaining agreements that the city enters into with the trades. So the North Bay Building and Construction Trades Council and the Northern California Carpenters Regional Council. And the PLA establishes the uniform terms and conditions of employment for all contractors on the project from the start. And also, as a part of it, ensures labor peace, and when properly negotiated and implemented, then is able to satisfy those requirements for the skilled and trained workforce under state law. So, staff is recommending that, should we proceed with the progressive design build approach, that the method in which we meet the skilled and trained workforce approach is through a project labor agreement for a number of reasons that are on this slide. The first is that there are fewer administrative requirements when compared to what's the monthly reporting requirements under the enforceable agreement. And then there's also, and this is, I think, important for a complex project of our type, which is we get greater access to the skilled trades. And whenever you're doing vertical construction like this kind of project's going to require, you're going to need a wide range of skilled trades to build the thing. And a project labor agreement is going to provide us with access to the full building trades hiring hall system, which will give our design build entity, the contractor that Gary was talking about, will have the broadest possible labor pool to ensure that we're able to staff and get this thing built on time. The project labor agreement itself can also include some local hire provisions. These are goals that when they're able to, the hiring halls can give San Rafael, Marin, North Bay residents who work in the trades the opportunity to work on a project in their town or in their community or in their region. The PLA, as I said earlier, includes what we call labor peace provisions. So there's no strikes, there's no walkouts, there's no work stoppage provisions that apply for the entire duration of the project. And then lastly, but I think this is also really important, is there's a regional alignment piece with the County of Marin. And the County Marin, in the months preceding this presentation tonight, went through a process to determine the project delivery approach for the new fire headquarters, and they are also using a progressive design build approach. And so they've evaluated this, and the county themselves elected to pursue a project labor agreement. And so we think that that peer agency precedent is meaningful, and we're also kind of doing the same analysis and coming to the same conclusion. And it's very possible that we could have the same contractors working on our project that we're working on the counties. And so there's a level of parity and economy of scale as it relates to at least meeting this skilled trade requirement. So with that, just some conclusions and next steps. So it's staff's view and recommendation that a progressive design build paired with a project labor agreement is ultimately going to provide for a higher quality project, and one that may also yield a shorter time frame to completion when compared to the other delivery methods. And this is a view that is shared not just from Gary and the Griffin team, but also our legal team at BBK, who have at least shared with me anecdotally that across the state, the clients that they work for, everyone is very satisfied with the progressive design build approach when compared to the traditional design bid build. So this is definitely, if you have a project over the threshold in state law, this is what jurisdictions are looking at to utilize. And so also I'll add that we're not necessarily charting unknown territory here. And so I'll just underscore all this. The community voted for this facility. This was a citizens initiative. They are giving us a great deal of money to build something fantastic for our city. And so it's imperative, and it's our obligation as staff to also make sure that we're delivering the best outcome for that investment. And so we believe that this is the path forward for us to be able to achieve just that. In terms of the next steps, we'll work following council direction tonight to move on kind of two parallel tracks. The first would be to begin preparing a solicitation to select the design build entity to bring qualified firms to the table. And then we'll also be starting our work around CEQA review and all that fun stuff. But then the second track is around negotiating a project labor agreement, which concurrently staff would seek to negotiate a PLA for the project. But all of that would have to come back to the subcommittee and then the full council prior to anything being finalized. And so with that, that concludes my presentation, but Paul's going to jump in.
No, I'll just add to Mayor Kate's question about feedback from the subcommittee during this presentation. I would just say that as part of that subcommittee presentation, they saw a preview of this. There was a lot of focus on the description of the different alternatives, and in the subcommittee, we kind of got into, there's some pros and cons that you need to weigh in it, both having to do with the trade-offs between a traditional design bid build where you may very well end up with a low bid, but when you're looking at all of the factors and looking at the best value for the project, that's part of the driving force behind staff's recommendation. We also discussed that, and it was touched on in the presentation, the staff report, that there's considerations about sort of the transfer of risk through the course of a project through these different. So I just want to commend staff and the team for incorporating into the staff report some of the nuance of the discussion that doesn't just speak right to the staff recommendation, but the thinking behind evaluating the alternatives and bringing forward that recommendation.
Thank you. That's really helpful. So would you say that the subcommittee is in alignment with what is being presented to the council this evening? So it went through this, so this takes in their questions and comments, and they were supportive of the both design build as well as the PLA? Okay.
Yes,
nodding your
that's
head.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you for providing that connection to that meeting. Thank you, Gary, as well. So questions, Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Just a couple of questions. First one is, I was trying to think about what would be my type of work in this, and I was looking at the San Rafael School District, because they've gone through a number of facilities, new development as well as modernization, and they use a term alternative design build. Is alternative the same as progressive?
Yes, in the marketplace, that's one and the same.
Okay,
because
that's what I've.
Yeah,
It sounded sort of like it.
yep.
All right. And then, on one of your slides, you said the risk is balanced. I have an idea of what that might mean, but I was wondering if you could describe what balanced risk would be.
Yeah, I can. So in traditional delivery, the city typically retains the architect, the engineers, all the professionals that are responsible for a full design per code and such. And by doing that, the city maintains that risk through course of completion and what we call errors and omissions. And so with a progressive design build, you're contracting now with a combination of a contractor and all the design professionals as one entity, and you're what we call a risk transfer. The city is no longer responsible for those errors and omissions because you're not contracting directly with the architect and the engineers. So that's what I mean by balanced.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Urans-Galati, questions?
Yes, thank you. So, so I was just thinking, because we are running like the parallel progress, right? Where we are opening up right now for like RFPs and, for bids, and then at the same time doing the labor negotiations. Is that what I understand? That what I heard, right? So can you explain that process where you haven't selected the contractor yet, but you are parallel to that, you're doing labor negotiations?
I might just clarify that we're not really doing the labor negotiations. We're negotiating how we are going to meet the requirement under the statutory requirement for progressive design build to meet the requirements that we are using trades
That makes
labor
sense.
for it. So it's the structure for how labor is going to be used. We're not negotiating labor agreements.
Right, okay, that makes more sense, thank you. And I was hearing about like the interest in hiring or working with local, workers, laborers, and also contractors. Do we have any guidelines right now to set that up, or are we opening, like, I imagine we are opening the bids for anybody who wants to apply? How are we proceeding with that? Because I have heard of some municipalities where you open the bids and then people are bidding in there, and then the city can select like the best bid and offer it to a local company within 5% or whatever percentage is designed. So I don't know if we have looked into anything like that, because it's such a big project. It would be really nice to be able to designate it locally.
Yes, this is a little bit different than a traditional local bid preference in a bid contract. This is, again, we're looking for the, best value of the team. State law requires that to use this process, you basically need to use union labor. And then we're proposing to work with the North Bay Trade Council to ensure how that's going to work. And in that agreement, I think the thought is that that would be the opportunity to build in sort of a local preference for the trades, but we have other folks, I think, on the call and on the team that can speak better to it.
Yeah, Craig, could you speak to?
Yeah. Yeah, I could speak to that.
We're going to turn you down. Hold on a
Are
second.
you? Okay.
Hold on.
Wait, hold on a second. You're like God.
We found a microphone that works.
Oh my God.
Could you just give us a one-word test?
Hello.
Better. Yeah.
Better?
Can you give us a few words?
Is that better? Sound better?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. No, I know at the beginning of the meeting, it sounded like there were some hearing issues, and it sounds like I came in pretty loud there. In the project labor agreement, and we can even look to the one with County of Marin. There's local hiring goals. So hiring out of the hall for residents of the County of Marin. And so there's a real push to hire locally and also train locally. So that's the angle to make sure that there's local involvement, especially local labor themselves. It's a little bit for construction companies. It's a little bit harder because you're going to go through the statute requires a best value process to hire a design builder. So your best avenue really for the local angle is through the PLA and for local engagement with employees and skilled trained workforce.
Okay, that's wonderful news. In terms of is it possible to have, I know we are with economic development, we were talking about workforce development, internships. I don't know if this is the type of project that we could be using some of these, people that they are working on doing like the workforce development right now with Marine Builders Association or some other organization, if they could be part of that project. I know you're talking about very high skilled people as well, but I'm just curious to see.
There is, as a part of the PLA, language around employing a certain number of apprentices. So people who are just getting started in their careers in the trades. And so that's the most, as it relates to this agreement, the best vehicle that we would have to do that. However, I've seen in these agreements elsewhere where there have been conversations with the trades around additional workforce development initiatives. I know where I worked in the East Bay, they had one that was called the Construction Trades Workforce Initiative, CTWI, which was seeking to help bring the pipeline closer to people and getting them into those apprenticeship jobs so they could get into a career in the trades. So this provides a foundation for that.
Great. That's wonderful. My last question was around the survey for the community. Can you briefly talk a little bit more about that? Who's going to receive the survey? How are we going to reach out to different groups in the community?
I'm going to start this, and then I'm going to also ask Catherine Kufa to come down because she's been an integral part of that. So what we've been working on over the last couple months, as Gary alluded into the presentation, is to develop what a kind of hypothetical program for the future facility, what that will be. And so we have a variety of different assumptions that we as a staff team have been making around, what are all the basket of amenities that a future building needs to have, and then assign an assumption around the square footage, and then start figuring out, okay, well, how big of a building can we do and what can we get for that? The survey that's going to be going out later this spring is one where we'll be pushing out to the entire community to test what our assumptions have been. So, what are there programmatic elements or things that the community members want to have in this building that we didn't include? And then we can take that back and refine the program and figure out what the total mix of spaces and rooms and the like. Do you want to speak to kind of the outreach plan and anything I missed on the survey as well?
Yeah, I think you captured the survey pretty well. It's going to be a very high level, trying to get like what are the community priorities and in what order? Because as we go forward, we're going to have to decide. We're going to be kind of trading space. Like, do we need more study rooms or do we need more meeting spaces? Things like that, and we need to base that on community, what we hear from the community. So those are the kind of things we're going to also have a few questions around, like what are the design aesthetics, but those are very early, very high level, just to kind of start getting the community thinking about it and engaged in the process. So I think the outreach strategy for that is we're going to be pushing it out through all of our our library and our recreation divisions have very extensive email lists through all of our library card holders, as well as anyone who's ever signed up for any of our recreation programs. So I think those are two large lists that we'll be pushing it out through social media. We also are doing a summer mailer for recreation, and our hope is that this survey is ready in time that we can mail it, that it will be part of the mailer and pretty prominently promoted through that, so actually mailed to every resident. And then, yeah, social media, snapshot, pop-up events, wherever we're at, we're going to have postcards, and we're just giving them out to everyone through all of our nonprofit organizations, and we'll really be promoting it as broadly as we can. Concurrently, we're also going to be having a meeting with our stakeholder committee. So that's the kind of seven-member working group where we will be going in more detail around the program, the draft program for the building, and kind of starting that conversation with them.
I was going to add and highlight something that Catherine said, and it came up in the subcommittee again, because when you go out for the community outreach on a project like this, you have the potential to, here's the wish list of everything that the community wants, and it's important that the input is sought and received in the context of kind of trade-offs in terms of the limitations of the space and the footprint, as well as budget implications. And so I think that we had a little bit of discussion at the subcommittee about kind of this idea of getting feedback through some trade-offs, like what's more important, as opposed to just open-ended, what would you like to see, because that becomes a little challenging in terms of informing the best value to meet the community's needs.
Yes.
And I just want to add one thing to underscore everything we just said. This is the first bit of community engagement that we're doing, but as we go through this process and we get our design build firm on board, there's going to be an entire whole other program of community outreach. And so I think what's exciting about at least like being able to do this mailer is to get as many people to sign up on our project website, get their email, so we can continue to have them be engaged throughout the process of the project.
And I know you do a great job. I mean, like with Pickleweed, having the community with their dots and going through the process. And also, I know there are a lot of opportunities moving the park and partnering maybe with the schools with their annual festival, things like that. But so that's really great news to make sure that people that they don't have access maybe to electronics, they can also provide feedback. And Vice Mayor Kurtz was mentioning the schools. We were both serving on the school district, so we are very familiar with the wish list of everything that everybody wanted, and then coming down to the reality of like, okay, this is the budget, and let's see what we can build. So, but that's super exciting. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I just have two questions. One's about time, and the other one's about money, time and money. So the first one, Gary, you might want to come back up. So in the staff report, it talks about, in terms of the project timelines, everything's over 60 months, so I don't want to get into the difference between the different three. I'm more curious, is that typical for a project of this scale? Because when I did my math, 5+ years to have this from the moment the voters said, yes, we want to have this, to the time that they walk in the door. So, and it's more around managing expectations for the community.
Yes, Mayor. So the 62 months that we're targeting right now is very normal for when you get to the starting line of deciding a vision that you have of funding, and once you start the programming and space allocation, it's very typical. In the construction phase right now, and this is based on assumptions, we're looking at about 26 to 27 months
Okay, okay,
of that overall time.
okay.
So over the years I've been doing this, I call it like the 2 and 2. On a small job, that's usually 2 years to decide, design, permit, and bid, and 2 years of building something. This is a little larger project than that, and with the appropriate timelines we've allocated, we're comfortable that that's what it's going to take. Now, of course, there is opportunity to save time, but we're too early at the process to bank or assume that we can save time today. So we're comfortable with the allocation as it is.
Okay, no, that's helpful. Thank you. And then the next question is about money. So I appreciate the breakdown that you gave of the 105 million because it wasn't in a staff report. So understanding between the construction, the contingency, professional fees. So I have two questions on this. One is with the guaranteed maximum price, it's not established, as I understand, at the beginning, right? That's part of the uncertainty or gray area, let's say. So do you have a range that you're giving? Because we're still trying to have a number, right? It's going to cost this. So how do you talk about it? I know you said 105 million, but do you give a range as the project goes farther? Like, I'm trying to just understand where we're like, trying to figure out where that number is, and again, how we communicate, how we understand it up here and how we communicate that to the community.
It's an excellent question, Mayor. So in this delivery method, along with design build, we've established a program level, high level cost per square foot of the building at 50,000 square foot and all the other market rate services that come with delivering this facility. The next step is to validate that from the progressive design build community. What we are going to do to stay on schedule is we're going to release this RFP by mid-June, hopefully. And in that RFP, again, you're hiring a contractor and a design team for what we call pre-construction, a runway up to when we start building it. But we're going to solicit from them their opinion based on the program, what they think the construction is. That's a second point of validation. Then after we hire that team, the city will collaborate and outline for that team, we have a target of this. Is it feasible in your opinion? So there's all these checks and balances that are going to happen along the way for cost certainty. No surprises. You don't wait 9 months and figure out that you're oopsie over budget. This delivery method ensures there's constant feedback. It's a control mechanism.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. I think that's something that's really attractive about it. And again, it's how do we communicate and how do we have the ultimate transparency in a process that is different than the traditional one that had the downside. So in your experience, in those conversations over time, which of the categories tends to have the most volatility, as it were? Is it primarily just in the construction, or does it pretty much a percentage across all the categories?
It's
like
another
if it would go up or down.
It's another great question. So in development, there's a general rule of thumb. In our case, 105 million. The sticks and bricks, the cost of the construction is always about 80% of the total budget.
Okay.
78 to 82, an average of 80. The 20% is all the rest, engineering, furniture, all the other ancillary services. So to answer your question, the risk is in the cost of construction.
Okay.
And these days, with political issues and everything else and uncertainty, you have to factor those in, and you have to test those each quarter and every 6 months to make sure all of those assumptions are holding true. And we will, at the appropriate times, always come back to the city council through Measure P and report how we're doing. What are the pressures we're seeing?
Yeah.
There's going to be validation and buy-in throughout the whole process.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. As it is a different approach, I think, again, having folks understand, including myself. So thank you. Let me see if there's any public comment on this item. If you are interested in commenting, come on down. You're invited but not required to say your name and what part of San Rafael you live in.
Ken Dickinson, San Rafael Meadows. I have a couple of questions about the progressive design build. As I understand it, using this method requires a very hands-on owner, and the owner should have the staff and expertise to engage daily in the project. So I wanted to ask if you could explain how that part would work. And the second one is, it's on this balanced risk. Is it typical to have like a shared contingency fund for a project like this, given the kind of uncertainties that, you know, the whole world faces, and I think you alluded to a little bit? Would that be normally created, some kind of shared contingency fund for the risks? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Yeah, come on down. Maybe pull the microphone up just because we've been having, there you go. Perfect.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilman. Just want to, I'm Dan McCullough with the Carpenters Union, and I just came up tonight. I wanted to thank city staff for recognizing the importance of including the Carpenters Union as our own entity within the recommendation action to enter into PLA negotiations for the library project. It will be key for the labor force since the carpenters' crafts cover about 60% of the work on any general building project. The Carpenters Union needs to have the ability to be a part of any negotiations that will affect our membership. We will never sign on to an agreement for terms and conditions that our members work under if we are not in it from the beginning. Should you all choose to go with option B and direct staff to negotiate a PLA, please include in your direction to staff, include the Carpenters Union as an equal party as our own representatives to the PLA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Chris Palomo. I'm the senior organizer with the North Coast States Carpenters Union at a local 751. And I just kind of want to follow up on Dan had said on how vital it is to give us the opportunity to negotiate for our members since we're a separate entity from the building trades. So I'm also the senior organizer for another local, which is 152 in Contra Costa County. A PLA that was there, we did not sign because we weren't going to be given the opportunity to negotiate for our members. And the result of that was devastating to the city because there was a general contractor on that project that was not paying prevailing wages, which if we were assigned to that PLA, we would have caught that and that wouldn't have happened. Number two, what it did is it delayed that project by 11 months. And so the city had to go pull funds out of their capital reserve funds that, you know, they didn't really want to, but they had to pull it out to now because the non-union contractor upped their price by upwards of 200%. And they had to pay it. There was nothing they could do. They were in a standstill. So again, I just want to, emphasize on how important it is that we're part of our negotiations for our contractor. You know, we represent not just the general contractor, but 11 apprenticeable trades underneath that. So that's anything from your concrete formwork, your metal stud drywall, wood framing, scaffold builders, millwrights, pile drivers, your acoustical ceilings, the trim and hardware, you name it. You know, majority of the project we do. So it's vital that we are there to represent our members and the workers that are going to be on that project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Don't see anyone else in the chamber, so thank you. I'll close the public comment. We had 2 questions by Mr. Dickinson, so we could answer that and then also speak to the labor negotiation part that we just heard.
I may take a first stab at the first of all, it is critically important that there's a active owner on top of the project, and that's actually the role that in many ways Griffin Structures is going to provide because they're basically the owner's rep. So they have been brought under contract to work with us not only through this process but also to be on top of the project from start to finish, including the active engagement through the project along with staff. I might also, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add on that. I would just say that on the, if the question was, should there be additional contingencies given this nature of the project? I think the answer is that as we go through this, we'll want to ensure that we have the appropriate contingency. However, due to the nature of this type of delivery method and some of the checks and balances that we have throughout it, that contingency line item in the budget isn't our only release valve for costs and project, because it won't be until a certain part of the project. We were talking earlier about the cost estimate and trade-offs. Well, programmatically, cost per square foot, this came up, I'll just say, because it came up in the subcommittee meeting, the cost per square foot of a commercial kitchen versus classroom space is very different. So we're going to be managing the project to balance the highest priority needs for the programmatic space, as well as the overall budget and fiscal capacity we have to drive it to a comfortable spot, and then have the contingency overlaid on top of that as it relates primarily to construction. But also through this method, we are less likely to have change orders that stem from errors and omissions, change orders that stem from unforeseen conditions in the field, because the whole team is working on it from the get-go. So I believe that when you get to that guaranteed maximum price, barring, we're in a pretty good spot, if that addresses that.
Yeah, it does. Thank you for that. But also, I heard part of the question is that, is there a shared contingency? A great question. And yes, there is. Okay, this is an open book process. The design builder will always present their budget. They'll identify a contingency, and there's an opportunity to say, let's share that contingency. Stuff happens during construction. You might have to add a new room, okay? There's an opportunity to use that contingency collectively and transparently. That's the most important thing of a delivery method, is open book, transparent partnership.
And then I'll take the last question. So, yes, this staff intends to negotiate with both the carpenters as well as North Bay Trades Council, so everyone, which is what the County of Marin did for their PLA as well.
We learned from the lessons that our northern neighbors, I guess, learned. So appreciate them for that. Additional questions or comments? Vice Mayor, go ahead with comments.
No, I'm looking forward to it. As somebody who's worked under the agile process, it feels very comparable to that in a different industry. So thank you. I like it. It does work well. It requires having all the right people around the table all the time. I've learned that many times. So very happy to see this come forward. I like it. I do think it does work a lot faster than some of the traditional. And I appreciate the back and forth and receiving, continual updates around how it's moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Uranz-Galati.
Yeah, so again, thank you so much. I'm really, really excited about this project, and I'm excited to be able to work with our local, employees, and I can't wait to see the concepts, the design, the community engagement. This is one of the most exciting projects for our city. So thank you, and keep going. Thank you.
I will offer my thanks as well. This is exciting. I want to thank the subcommittee and thank you for sharing the conversation they've had. They have their work cut out for them. I'm glad that we're looking at this. To assume that we're going to be building buildings the way we did 60 years ago seems really not forward-thinking and literally not progressive. And so to me, I want to say it's a no-brainer because it actually is very thoughtful. And for all the reasons that you outlined, this makes sense in this day and age for projects of this size and this complexity is a fantastic alternative. And learning about the PLA, the project labor agreement, again, is another way to work with labor in a way that's transparent and I'd say fair to both the city as well as to the folks that are doing the actual build. So I really am excited to have this milestone. I'm sorry that Mary Beth and Eli aren't here to also to celebrate and be taking this vote in a moment. So thank you, Gary, for all that you've done. Thank you, Craig, for zooming in on high, as it were. And we look forward to more updates as we go forward. So with that, I would entertain a motion. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I'd also like to thank the trades for being here this evening. I know it makes for a very long day. I'd like to make a motion to receive staff's analysis of alternative project delivery methods, authorize staff to proceed with the Progressive Design Build, PDP, project delivery method, and direct staff to initiate project labor agreement negotiations with the North Bay Building and Construction Trades Council and Northern California Carpenters Regional Council.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Council Maria Gulati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. We have one more item on our agenda this evening, and that's the appointment of the interim city manager. And I'm going to turn to our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Kate, members of the council. This agenda item concerns the appointment of Paul Navazio as interim city manager. So I have a brief oral report and then I'll answer questions. On February 11, the city council appointed Mr. Navazio, seated immediately to my left, to serve as acting city manager to provide leadership continuity during a transition period. Prior to that appointment, Mr. Navazio had been serving as the city's finance director and had been responsible for overseeing the city's fiscal operations. Now, it's proposed that the city appoint Paul as interim city manager as opposed to acting city manager, which he was before. That's a common practice during a period of transition. And as I said, he was appointed acting city manager since February 11th, attended several city council meetings since then, has demonstrated his ability to lead the city and manage city operations. Also has, as the council's aware, prior experience as a city manager in other locations. So I want to review in particular a compensation term and bring it to your attention as well as that of the community. The proposed contract is attached as an exhibit to the staff report, but at the top of page 6, I want to note that there would be a retroactive increase in the sense that for the period February 18 through February 28, that the city would pay the interim city manager retroactively an amount equal to 15% on top of his most recent salary as finance director. That would reflect the pay differential to which he'd be entitled under city policy for working in a job outside of class. But then as to the compensation set forth in the agreement for his new role as interim city manager, which would simply duplicate the compensation that was paid to the prior city manager, Ms. Alilovich, that would commence as of March 1, 2026. And I also want to note that pursuant to labor agreements that were previously negotiated, there are cost of living adjustments that are set to be implemented for the entire workforce on July 1st. And should Mr. Navazio remain in the role of interim city manager at that time, the contract provides that he would then receive the equivalent cost of living increase as that of the other employees. The rest of the agreement is pretty straightforward and similar to what you've seen in the past. When the time comes to appoint a permanent city manager after the conclusion of the interim city manager period, we will come back with a new agreement that will need to have some additional terms that this one doesn't have. In particular, it's important to note that should Mr. Navazio conclude his service as interim city manager and not become the permanent city manager, that's a discussion for a later day, then he would be entitled to return to his former position as finance director. And that's also memorialized in the agreement. So there's a lot. I mean, I worked on this thing, and so you'll not be surprised that it's 9 pages long. And I'm glad to answer any questions you may have about it, but I'm not inclined at this moment to review each of the provisions in detail as they're all set forth.
Thank you. I'll see if there are any questions. Any questions? Okay, not seeing any questions from the council. I'll open up public comment on this item. If you'd like to comment, now is your opportunity.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Ken Dickinson, San Rafael Meadows. On April the 1st, the San Francisco Standard reported that San Rafael's city manager is out and a controversial homeless shelter may have pushed her out. That raises concerns, not just about one individual, but about the decisions and direction coming from you, Mayor Kate, and this council. These concerns aren't just media speculation. They are apparently based on a consultant's report from the city's own performance review, where senior staff described the 350 Meridale project as a symbol of chaos. Yet the public is being asked to accept that the city manager alone is responsible. That strains credibility. The city manager implements policy, you said it, with oversight and multiple closed session discussions on 350 Meridale over the months leading up to its purchase. Instead of shared accountability, this looks like a convenient and well-compensated scapegoat. The former city manager reportedly received a $471,832 resignation package and has already moved to a position with the city of Sonoma. So the questions are, who is being held accountable and where is the transparency? Meanwhile, our affected communities have received silence from all of you here. At the December 15th closed session, I request verbally and in writing that you and any interested council members meet with us to discuss the future of 350 Meridale. That request was never acknowledged or responded to. So we are left asking, where's the leadership, where's the accountability, where's the transparency? Before appointing an interim city manager, you need to shine some sunlight on the decisions that brought us to this point. Without that, this looks like a $500,000 cover-up at a time when the city is already facing serious financial constraints. Thank
I
you.
don't feel like my mic's working. I'll just use my outside voice.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Marianne Anastad from San Rafael Meadows. I'm speaking to item 3C. I'd like to step back and focus on process. Tonight, you are being asked to approve an interim city manager and move forward. But there's been no clear public discussion of what comes next or how this council intends to move forward differently. What is the plan for selecting a permanent city manager? What criteria will be used? And importantly, what lessons have been learned from what just happened? Because hiring decisions are not just about filling a position, they're about setting expectations, defining priorities, and establishing accountability going forward. Right now, from a public perspective, it feels like the city is moving quickly to stabilize leadership without first clearly acknowledging what went wrong or how governance will improve. That creates risk. Risk of repeating the same decision-making process, risk of unclear direction to staff, and risk of further eroding public trust. This is an opportunity not just to appoint an interim, but to reset, to commit to move transparent process, to clearly define roles between council and the city manager, and to ensure that major decisions like 350 Meridale are handled with clarity, coordination, and public engagement. So my request is simple. Before moving forward, outline the process, explain what will be done differently, and make that commitment publicly, because without that, this feels less like a transition and more like a continuation of the same conditions that brought us here. Thank you.
Any other public expression?
Hello, my name is Wayne Rayburn. Good evening, Mayor, members, staff. I want to raise a practical and urgent concern that does not appear to be addressed in the staff report or the agenda materials. The proposed interim city manager is currently serving as the city's financial director, arguably one of the most critical roles, especially given the city's current financial challenges. The agenda indicates that he will temporarily step into city manager role and then return to his position once a permanent city manager is hired. But that raises a fundamental question. Who will perform the duties of financial director in the meantime? This is not a minor operational detail. The city has public acknowledged serious financial restraints, and to understand it, is already operating under a hiring freeze. At a time when careful financial oversight, forecasting, and budget management is essential, removing this person's responsibility as those functions, even temporarily, creates a significant gap. Will those responsibilities be reassigned internally? If so, to whom, and with what level of experience and authority? Or would the city retain outside consultants, potentially adding to the future costs during a financial downturn? These are not just administrative questions, they go directly to financial responsibility and governance. Before approving this appointment, I urge the City Council to urgently outline how the financial director's responsibility will be covered and what safeguards are in place to ensure continuity and financial oversight during the transition. At the time of financial uncertainty, the city cannot afford ambiguity in financial leadership. Thank you.
Any other public comment on this item? Not seeing any. I'm going to close the public comment. I know we heard input, and I'll turn to the city attorney to see
Yeah,
if there's
I'm
any
actually going to
response.
invite Paul to respond to Mr. Rayburn's questions at the end because he's better equipped to answer.
Yeah, I can say a few words. Thank you for the public comment. Just specific to, I believe, the last comment regarding the dual role or juggling of duties. I appreciate the notion that the fiscal management of the city remains a top priority. And I will just share, as I've shared with the council, that I think for the interim temporary duration of this agreement, I am comfortable continuing in that role, and I'll add for two particular reasons. Number one being that as far as our day-to-day operations of our finance department, we are now fully staffed with very competent and capable team that has consistently done great work and does not honestly require a significant amount of management and oversight, but there will be some. The main issue is navigating the budget process, the city's path towards financial stability, regardless of what comes our way. And as I have shared before, having served as budget manager, finance manager, assistant city manager, and city manager for 8 years in a city in another jurisdiction, in all of those roles, including assistant city manager and city manager, I maintained responsibility over the budget. In fact, it's not uncommon in some potentially larger cities for the budget to actually be in the city manager's office. And so even if there was an offer for support, I would not be handing off the budget at this particular time. I would acknowledge that, again, depending on the duration, that might be a question that we could be revisited at some future time. But for the time being, not only am I comfortable maintaining responsibility and oversight to manage the budget process and bring the council a balanced budget, I kind of insist that I be allowed to do that.
Thank you. City Attorney, did you want to add anything?
No, I thought Paul's answer was terrific, and I have nothing further to add.
Okay.
And I didn't hear anything else that would require a response. There were some comments, and the council may wish to respond.
Yep. No, thank you. I'll bring it back to the council and first express gratitude to Paul Navazio. The media is going to write what the media is going to write. And what is factual is that there was a agreed upon mutual separation with the former city manager. So that's the story, beginning, middle, and end. So with that, I would entertain a motion or additional comments.
No additional comments. I'm happy to make a motion.
Thank you.
Adopt the resolution appointing Paul Navazio as interim city manager and authorizing the mayor to execute an employment agreement with Paul Navazio.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yeren Scolati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Interim City Manager Paul Navazio. We might just say City Manager Paul Navazio because it's a really long title otherwise. Just saying. Okay, before we adjourn, we had open time for public expression at the beginning. And I guess even though it wasn't fully used, I guess we have it again at the end, even though it wasn't fully utilized. So if anyone would like to speak, now is the opportunity. Not seeing anyone. Appreciate everyone for the meeting this evening. This meeting, where's my gavel?
Oh, we have to redo the whole thing again.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned without the gavel.